Hello and welcome to Drummers Only Radio. Drummers Only is a specialist drum shop started by drummers for drummers.
With 2 locations, Glasgow and Leeds, we stock everything you need for your drumming journey.
I'm Chris, the shop manager for Glasgow.
And I'm Adam, the social media manager for the Drummers Only brand.
This podcast will be interviews, reviews,
and much more
from the unique perspective of a drum shop. So like, subscribe,
and feel free to get involved.
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome, Drummers Only Radio, episode 29.
And who is our guest this week, Christopher?
It's none other than Mr. Steve White.
Steve what?
Legend that is Steve White.
Yep.
Steve, if you don't know who Steve is, if you're a younger drummer and perhaps aren't hip to who this man is, he is a drumming legend.
Yes.
He started his career with a band called the Style Council and then was Paul Weller's mainstay for a long time. He's played with The Who, he's played with Oasis, he's played with the Stereophonics, La Rue, a whole bunch of stuff.
Whole bunch of folk. And he's just recently brought out a new book.
He has, you're right. The book's called The Art of Drumming. Steve has been an educator for a long time as well, a clinician and a wonderful teacher.
And a wonderful person.
Absolutely. It was a great conversation. I think, do you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think it's maybe my favourite yet.
Oh, controversial.
I know. I'm sorry to the
past guests.
But no, I've been looking forward to being able to get to talk to Steve for a while.
Yes, absolutely. This was a lovely conversation.
Yeah. A couple of tech things. Apologies because it was on Skype and the video perhaps doesn't look as good as it could have. And there was maybe the odd sync thing. We did our best with editing. But sit back, relax and enjoy, Steve.
And enjoy, guys. Enjoy. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm really good. Great to talk to you. It's been a while.
I know. Mania. The world's gone mental.
Crazy.
Yeah, basically, I think that's a fair assumption. You know, we've just stuck it out in our little leafy suburb of southeast London and just tried to pretend that it was all normal. Feel like a Carry On film.
Totally.
You're not.
You know the Carry On Up the Khyber one where they're taking they're being attacked and they're just sat there having their dinner. That's kind of how I've felt about the last few months. Just sat there having my soup and stuff and just going, what's going on? It's incredible.
Brilliant. You just kind of have to get on with it, don't you? There's just no way around it.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is, and you know, it was being. If we're talking about it, it was being telegraphed to me by people, friends, very good friends around the world in January and February about what was happening. People from China, people from Italy who were telling me, look, this is happening, this is coming. And so there's no excuse for my books to say that, we didn't really know what we were dealing with. It's like, if I was getting messages about this and being told and sent masks and things like that in January by kind friends in China, and then, you know, I think the government, they can't use that one as an excuse. They did know what was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely,
totally.
man, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what do you even do about it? You know, you just feel so kind of helpless about it, you know?
Yeah, and you know, I think that we've learned a lot about ourselves, about how important connectivity is. You know, that maybe we don't need quite a lot of the things that we sort of felt that we needed just on tap all the time. Maybe it slowed the planet down a little bit in obviously not in great ways economically and in terms of suffering, but in other ways, you know, the environment's had a little chance to reboot and, you know, so I don't know. We're just we are where we're at, and unfortunately, in our business, we are you know, basically reliant on the fact that people get together and shout at each other and hit things and drink and talk nonsense and have a good time, and that's unfortunately that's the one place where this thing seems to lurk best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, talk about timing. You just brought a book out. You were meant to be coming up.
I know.
You know, so
it was like, I remember seeing Russ, my co-author, and we drove down to Russ had like needed like 150 books that I'd signed, and we weren't sure whether we were even allowed to go out. It was like, can we do this? Are we okay about doing it? And we decided to meet at a service station, like a couple of Del boys, you know. and by, you know, I pulled in and lifted the boot of my car up, and Russ lifted the boot of his car up, and a police car pulled up, and the guy literally was like, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "Mate, we just it's some books." And he went, "It's okay, don't worry about it." So I just went home, and we never went out for like 3 months. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, but we had a really, really strong online demand for it, which was lovely. The sales were, you know, went pretty well. And with the book, I you know, it's not going away. So when it's safe to do so, and we're not going to get disturbed and told that we've got to all go back indoors, I'll be up and we'll just pick up where we kind of left off. You know, there was a lot of things like coming up to see you guys and going over to Ireland to do the Galway Drum Festival and Freddie Gee, and one by one these things, like so many drummers were just being ticked out the diary. It's like, that's gone.
Yeah, for sure. So what was the impetus? Why a book now? And, you know, digital demand is so big, but I love the old school vibe of that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've kept up. One of the things I've been doing in the lockdown is on my YouTube channel. I've been doing these kind of lo-fi sessions, which have been a lot of fun to do. It's kind of sort of a bit like this. It's me with the drum kit, and I've managed to master Logic, believe it or not, after trying to get connected with our Skype. I've managed to master Logic, and I've got an interface with all my kit going through the interface, and a really lovely lavalier mic. So I've been doing these little sessions that from my drum room, you know, which you can see now, and they've been going down an absolute storm, you know. So, and I've called them the lo-fi sessions because I don't want to refer to lockdown, because I think that is going to date us so much next year. People are not going to want to hear those two words next year. Yeah. So I called them the lo-fi sessions, and I've just been on the kit talking about tracks that are in the book. And I think it's lovely, you know, to have the digital demand, but I do know that obviously, you know, the people that have followed my career, that I've been lucky enough to have followed my career, are into something a little more physical. So that's why we wanted to do the book. And there's nothing quite like it. I mean, I love my digital content, but there's nothing like, you know, I'm sort of turning pages over and putting them on a music stand. I don't think that's being sort of Luddite. I just think it kind of works for me. I can't stand scrolling through an iPad trying to find one of my, you know, stick controllers, something like that. I'd just rather open up a copy and put it on a music stand, you know. Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess that's my thing, you know. It's you know, 1 foot very firmly in where I came from, but also trying to keep up with what's going on and listening to new music. You know, that's part and parcel of the whole journey, really.
How have you adjusted to trying to work out the YouTube machine? Like, do you find it weird talking to a camera?
Yeah, I think that my experience a year or so ago doing the art of drumming, where I was, you know, kind of thrust into this sort of situation where you are presenting the show, Steve, by the way. It was really like I had to sort of take some lessons off my wife and about camera technique. You know, she has a photographic memory, pretty much almost for scripts. So she was giving me tips, and she was telling me, you know, this is what you should do and how you deliver, and just talk slowly and remember not to swear and things like that. And so I did a fair bit of practice for it. And for the lo-fi videos, which are pretty much in real time, I just have some cheat sheets with like pointers about what I want to talk about, and I just go on a little bit of a journey, you know, and it is all quite relaxed and you know, quite fun. And then I send it off to Eki, because there's a three-man sort of team with the whole art of drumming and what I do online. It's Russ Tarley, who's my co-author and the bloke that kicks me up the backside about working. And then Richard Eccleston, Eki, who's very, very well known within the drum business, and he does all the visuals. So I think, you know, what a lot of drummers kind of possibly realised that when the lockdown happened was like, oh, right, one, I'll just go online and teach. And two, I'll just start a YouTube channel. And it's not as easy as that. It really isn't. And, you know, there's still, we're all you know, teaming and Zooming and Skyping, but none of these platforms are designed for music. No. So, you know, even I've got, you know, I'm still using the internal mic on the computer because it's the best one in terms of just levels. I've got a Rode USB. I've got the Focusrite, the Lavalier mic. But, you know, it's really difficult to go from talking to starting playing the drums without it all going crash, crash, crash.
Yeah.
So that's been a real kind of learning curve for me. I found things that do work really well, you know, and ironically with all my students, because I basically had quite a big commitment to my Trinity Laban students, my percussion students, where I've got 12 students there. I really had a commitment to them to keep working. So I had to get a new internet put into the drum room because the old one wasn't good enough, and just work so that I could carry on teaching. So I didn't really do much in way, hey, I'm online teaching because of my students. And what I really worked out was, you know, we've got lemons, let's make lemonade. So I used the opportunity to forward like every day, you know, throughout the sort of first 3 months of lockdown, myself and my colleague Mick Doran, who teaches and Callum Huggan.
I know Callum.
Yeah, Callum was part of our WhatsApp group. He teaches at Trinity. And we were just feeding the boys and girls like, you know, Ginger Baker in Africa or Art Blakey and Elvin Jones in 1969 and things that are Slade in Flame, you know, one of the great music sort of movies. Because at this point, I was like, well, what else are you going to do? You may as well sit and watch this stuff, you know, because probably you won't get a chance to do this again. And it is the perfect opportunity to really work on your hands. So, you know, you've all got a pad, you've all got sticks. I'm going to send you PDFs of stick control. I'm going to send you all accents and rebounds. I'm going to send you the rudimental ritual. I'm going to send you Joe Morello's master studies. So for me, we were able to kind of turn the clock back a little bit because, you know, whenever I was privileged to talk to people like Louis Belson as a younger drummer. And Louis used to say, well, you know, I used to practice 12 hours a day when I was on my school holidays. I go, what? You know, and you can see that in his ability. But the thing is at that point, Louis had very little to distract him, you know. The TV was, even in America, was limited. And to a certain degree, that was the same when I was a young drummer. There wasn't endless distractions with Fortnite and PlayStations and millions of channels. We had the telly, you know, and you watched the telly and it went off at 11 o'clock. So a lot more time was spent, you know, probably just working on the basics. So I said, if there's anything that we can do in this time that we've now got, let's sort your hands out. Let's really set goals about technical improvement that we can really be very, very confident that we're going to have at the end of this lockdown. Your hands will never be in a better shape. So that's the way I sort of took it, in a very positive way. And I think it really worked. So, you know, that's given me insight into what I know I can do virtually and online and what I can't do. And I know there's other drummers, you know, people like Craig Blundell, who have embraced this amazingly with his Vivo setup. But, you know, I saw Craig. We had a very civilized, socially distanced lunch and a glass of something in Soho last week, which was wonderful. Both of us, the first time that we've been out, and we went and we sat outside and we had a bit of a chat, and it was really great. And I mean, he's really invested, as Craig always does. He goes right for it, you know. So he's got a Vision mixer, and he's set it all up on Vivo, and he's getting like 100, 200 people joining his sessions every week, you know, which is phenomenal. So, you know, I'm kind of very admiring of that kind of dedication, but I know kind of what works for me. I've also been able to continue working on some of the soundtrack stuff that I'm doing because.
Oh, good.
We were supposed to be, right now was supposed to be a series coming out on Channel 5 that my wife's production company got commissioned, and we're Hague and White, which is the band that I'm working with. We've written all the music, and we were hoping to be releasing that all in September. That's obviously not happening now. So it's probably more than likely going to be next summer. So we were able to just carry on writing and working. And we've got a new single coming out next month. We've decided that we're going to put a new record out that's really upbeat, and it's really kind of, you know, it's a really great song. I'm really, really pleased with it. And because, you know, nobody's able to put anything new out, and we've got the infrastructure to do it through our little company, Real Movement Music. So that's been really positive. And then I managed to turn that on to the B side of it is a play along. It's going to be a play along that Yamaha bought into. So when I come up, you'll get to hear it. But the idea is that it's a really great up tempo, almost like Tower of Power type thing. Wow. And the idea is that I've filmed it and recorded it in real time, so you can see me playing it. And then basically with Yamaha and on the YouTube channel, we're going to release a drumless version of it with a click track, a drumless version without a click track, and a click track that you can add into your Logic. And I think Yamaha want to just have a bit of fun with it and maybe throw it out to some of the younger boys and girls and get them to film themselves doing it. And you know, and that's how you've got to be thinking these days, out the box. You know, you've got to be thinking, you know, for everyone that I know that, you know, sadly was kind of a month into this whole nonsense was saying, oh, when do you think I'm going to be gigging again? And I'm like, I really don't think it's going to be anytime soon. And what you don't want to be is, there's an old analogy about, like, you know, God forbid if a plane crashes, that there's a statistic that people that literally kind of take initiatives and get on and try to get away from that plane as quickly as possible tend to have a better chance of survival. And I think that that's a sort of something that we've all got to think about now, is that at the moment, you know, for whatever, we know the reasons, that, you know, it's very, very difficult to do what we do and also kind of sustain that, especially if you're into live performance. So you've got to think out the box. And if you have to go and do something else for a few months, then it's feed yourself, feed your family. It's you know, there's no shame in it. You know, you know, at all. We're all in the same boat. Our job at the moment is kind of on hold. So let's not kind of sit there and kind of go, oh well, you know, let's try and get some more money from the government to give us. It's not going to happen. You know, it's never been, the arts has never been appreciated greatly in these islands by the people in charge. So I think we've kind of had what we're going to get, and it will be up to us to work out how we can start to introduce the socially distanced gigs. And then hopefully when medically things get a bit more settled, then we can start doing gigs again. But until then, it's you've got to find other things to do.
Yeah, I think a mate of mine is a bank manager, actually, and his whole thing has been to his staff, which is pretty much universal, is you got to write your own ticket.
Yeah.
You know, sorry to say, but that's the truth. You know, you just, unfortunately, same in our game.
Yeah.
We are responsible for selling it. You know,
no one's going to do it for you.
No, they're not going to do it for you. Actually, one of your students is a customer of ours, a young guy called Scott Mcdonald.
Oh, Scott, yeah.
And he's been, I was speaking to his mother, he's been loving shedding.
Yes.
She's like...
They converted his shed, literally his shed, and he's apparently was in there for hours, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, just blasting on, you know. So it's working. Whatever you're doing is working.
Scott is one of my Goldsmith students who's just graduated, and he, you know, he saw that opportunity of, like, I'm going home. What am I going to do? Right, what have you got? And I was right. Let's really work on this. And you know, it was great because he would come in and onto Skype, and he really got it. He really could see the benefit of. And I've not got anything else to do. I can't go out. And you know, incidentally, I don't know what he got in his final graduation. I'm sure he done really well, but he sent me the most wonderful Stornoway black pudding as a little gift, which is just awesome. Yeah. So, you know, right where it needed to be.
There's nothing quite like it. Oh, no. It's phenomenal.
Egg on top, lovely.
One of the last times I saw you, I got to take a lesson, and I remember it was like an arse kicking, but it was beautiful because it was all fundamentals. That's been a big thing in your game for a long time, eh?
Yeah, totally. And you know, because there's this massive sort of part, you know, like. And I know that, you know, I've been doing it a long time, I had a very focused desire to know. I knew where I wanted my contribution to be. So, scroll that forward to next week. We've got a documentary premiering on Sky Arts about the Style Council, and it's looking like the Style Council have got a new compilation coming out, and there's a fair indication that it's going to do really, really well. And what that is songs. It's about songs, and that's been my mantra all, throughout my entire career. As much as I've kind of dipped in and dipped out to, which I love being part of the drumming community, and doing drum events and coming to see you guys and hanging and talking and looking, and I love all that. But it's like an extension of my personal interests, because the job in hand for me that has sustained my career for nearly 40 years now is playing on songs. And knowing how to get the best out of the studio side of things, and knowing when to shut up, and asking about the lyrics and what the lyrics are about. And that, for me, that legacy, I have different sort of playlists now, and, I have over 700 recorded tracks.
It's bonkers.
And we're talking, and I don't do the American BS thing of like being in the same room as an artist and telling the world that you played with them, because I could put Amy Winehouse on my CV and Ray Davis and the Stereophonics. I don't do any of that. It's just the bands that I played with and worked with, and from Dr. John and obviously Paul and the Style Council. And getting to do the Who and things like that, and Oasis and Ocean Colour Scene, and all the time doing my own stuff. And as I say, I feel like I'm and the Family Silver even more recently, which was a bit of a slap in the face in terms of reality about the fact that, quite simply, once you get beyond a certain age in this country, people are generally not really interested in original music. That's just a fact. They want to hear that, if they're going to go out, they're going to go out with their boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend. They are going to want to hear something that they know, have a few drinks. And, that's kind of the nature of the beast. It's very rare that you're able to say, right, we're going to do something completely new and completely different, and the audience will bite on that. It's just a bit of a fact. So that's when I decided that my love of recording coincided with the fact that my wife Sally started a production company, and like me has always been part of this mantra of creating your own work, not sitting to wait for the phone to ring all the time, because it doesn't a lot of the time. And I know in the world of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, everybody's doing brilliantly and wonderfully and check this out. That's not the case. It really isn't. That's fantasy world. In reality, there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of, I didn't get that gig. I didn't get a call for that gig. Better create something, myself, because there's nothing happening. And I've had periods of that. And now I think it's brilliant, because obviously there's still an element of a life in television, whereas just releasing music on its own is very, very difficult. So to combine my love of, being in the studio and composing and trying to be part of the creative process and making new music, which is what I absolutely adore, moving into the televisual thing has been an absolute, just felt like the kind of the right thing to do. And as I say, my approach is very basic. I don't, I take the basics, I take the rudiments, and I know that that's not popular with some kinds of drummers, but I take them. I think that using the rudiments musically is something that I really enjoy, being able to explore using basics and singles and doubles and subdivisions, but making a band sound good and an artist sound good, and being able to really have had a good attempt at that studio skill, because you see some phenomenal drummers on social media, and you see some phenomenal drummers with extraordinary technique, but you kind of know that if you were to record them, it would sound like a car crash, because there's no sort of deference to dynamics. There's no all the subtleties that never get talked about on social media. It's just brilliant. We all love technique, but what technique has become on some elements of the drum world is, if you could imagine hiring a brilliant crafts person to come around and do a great job for you, whether it's a really intricate electrical job or a plumbing job or something, or some amazing rendering, something very practical. what generally somebody that's really good does is they come round, they work from a very clean stool. They don't just chuck all their tools on the floor and just open to pick the right chisel or trowel. That doesn't happen. What they do is they pick the right thing for the job, and everything is polished and it's clean and it's sharp. And that for me is what technique is about, working on technique. But you don't go in and just throw everything on the table because no one's interested in that. Yeah. And some of the songwriters that I've worked with over the years, and I can, Paul and Noel and John Martin, when I did some stuff with him, they're not really that interested in drum per se. They like drummers. They love what drums bring to the music, but when you start going off to, into the realms of long drum solos and things like that, they're not interested. No. So it's a bit of a cul-de-sac that I try to tell my students to just be a little bit careful of just drums and drumming for drum's sake. Yeah. Because you've got to have the other elements that make you progress, which is music, it's songs, it's bass players and guitarists and keyboard players and vocalists. And your contribution to their output is what creates the rounded musician, not just a drummer.
Yeah, I mean, watching the lo-fi sessions has been an amazing education because you see how you do it musically.
Thank you.
So, I was watching... is my fire gone out? Is that the name? Yeah, I was watching that earlier. You play that first fill, and it wasn't until you explained it was triplets, because I heard it as 16th notes the first time I heard it. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
And it's on beat too.
Yeah, right.
And that's, and a lot of people have gone, I never knew that.
Yeah. Do you teach that though? Do you teach people how to sneak it in, as it were, or how to make the doubles and changing, man? How you take something really simple that's beautifully musical, but it needs technique to execute it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to try and sort of push across this mantra that music comes first, and your support of the song comes first. And we in this country, we produce some of the best song drummers on the planet, and America really has a kind of an edge on us in a certain technical approach because they've been doing it a lot longer. But if you look at the drummers who I love, I mean, from Woody Woodmansey to Ginger to all the way up to Stephen Morris and Rennie and Henry Spinetti and all of these, and I could go on and on about the joys of and talents of what British drummers bring to the table, and people like Ted McKenna, God rest him, songs, they play for the song, and so my sort of thing, it always kind of starts from that point of view. And then if you're working on your technique, you can start to push ideas in if you're confident. If you're, one of the things I do is subdivisions. I love the whole idea of working with something like Joe Morello's Table of Time, being able to take a subdivision, quarter note triplet, eighth note triplet, 16th note, quintuplet, sextuplet, septuplet, 32nd notes, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s, and then to try to sort of break them up, to try and sort of, can I do these as doubles now? Can I do these as paradiddles? Can I make, and then try to make them musical? And some people do say, well, if you're just thinking about sticking patterns all the time, you're not really creating music. But I think that if you do pay enough attention to the basics, what happens in the same way that you learn a language, and we're just free-forming in terms of conversation here, but we still have to learn the basics. So if you're in command of basic language, you eventually can converse. And I think if you are in charge and very well versed in the basics of drumming, then it makes it easier to converse musically. So you're not thinking paradiddle, double, 6, 4, 4. You don't. It's not like that. It becomes a conversation. So that's why I'm so, and I do think, I'm not a fusion drummer. I'm not a jazz drummer, although I love jazz and I love fusion. I know what my strengths are, playing and supporting songs and supporting pop. And I know and have learned and worked on the things that really helped me to be a good pop drummer. And that is being confident. That's being able to play with a click track. That's being able to to almost mix your own playing. So, so that when you do play, I mean, and listening to, you listen to a lot I listen to a lot of classic records, but when you do play, you're playing as if the engineer is not going to have to do very much when they put your drums up. It's not, we need to gate that snare drum, or, the double strokes are not really coming out. And that, again, is a very esoteric skill. And you listen to all the Motown drummers, and you listen to drummers like Steve Jordan, and you listen to drummers like Keith Carlock, and they have that ability to sound almost like they're mixing themselves. And Amir Questlove, people like that, they are masters at that. And that, I think, is a skill that doesn't get spoken about enough, because being able to go in and start that process with the engineer in the room and say, look, these are my drums, how do you think they sound? Do they sound good in the room? Oh yeah, they sound really good in the room. That builds a confidence straight away, rather than trying to listen to an individual drum through a snare mic in another room. The drums sound good on their own. Well, that's a basis. Is there enough dampening in the bass drum? Is there too much dampening in the bass drum? Have you got a reference? I remember working with LaRue, and she came in and she said, I want the drums to sound like, when you hit the toms, they sound like paper. And I said, okay, have you got like a musical reference that you can play me? And she put on Young Americans by Bowie and Dennis Davis playing drums. And clearly, I think that they were either heavily compressed drums or possibly concert toms, bottom head taken off, quite heavily gaffered, lots of dampening. So we whipped the heads off, we put some dampening on, some moon gels, and I hit them and it kind of went, goo, goo, goo. And she went, yeah, that's it. That's what I want. So, just trying to be accommodating and trying to build up that musical rapport. But then, as I say, if you're working on those kind of basics all the time and you're keeping, your chops up, when you get an opportunity to do something like Changing Man, where Paul's like, well, I don't want a random fill. He hated random fills, Paul. He liked sort of a musicality to the fill. So, the quarter note thing, very sort of solid. And when it got to that little embellishment, I was able to just do a very relaxed 30-second stroke roll. And that's all it is. It's a 30-second stroke roll for 1.5 beats. And it fitted perfectly, and then straight back to that quarter note. There was no, and I have heard drummers do it, where it's almost like leaping off a cliff when you get to that double stroke roll. And because they don't, they think, is it in time? Are you just trying to do almost like a scratch roll, which I'm not. It's just subdivided, and it's just 30 seconds, and it's as easy, as anything, because I've put the work in to have my tech respond in that way.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that's lost with a lot of younger drummers? Because the reason I say that is because, especially when you talk about recording, like you've got things now like the EAD10, where that kind of does all that self-mixing for you. So, like, do you think it's important for younger drummers to learn that kind of thing?
I think it personally is, and obviously, there are some fantastic young drummers about at the moment. I mean, young to me, people like Jack Pollitt, who I think is awesome, and there's some really great young players out there. Moses Boyd, we've got a drummer that's getting played on Radio 1, and his album is absolutely fantastic, So I'm kind of always kind of checking out younger players, and the ones that really, I think get it are the ones that will work when this nonsense is all over. They'll be the ones that work, but because you can't you can't change the fundamentals of it. If you're working with a singer-songwriter and they want to cut something live, it's no good going in with the attitude of I can play loud and I can play louder. That's, you've got to think, right, should I be using brushes on this? Could I, should I be playing anything? Could I just play a tambourine? Could I just say you should just do this acoustically because it sounds beautiful? These are all traits that are musicians, what musicians do. I love the EAD. I think it's a wonderful piece of kit. I think there's things that we could be looking at in terms of maybe its sharing capabilities, being able to actually, I've tried it, I've experimented with it in Logic, and I think it's a bit kind of uncontrolled in that situation, but it's a wonderful piece of kit to just put your headphones on, and I'm sure they've sold millions of them in the last couple of months, because it's great to kind of sit, to put like a scratched vinyl sort of setting and just play some break beats, so I love that kind of I love that sort of thing, and if I as I say, I have tried to record with it, and maybe I'm doing something not quite right, but I think if you could get that kind of real presence from what you're hearing in your ears onto a hard drive or something like that, then you've got something absolutely amazing. Because I love affected drums, I love loops, I love samples, I love hip hop. I love that whole kind of I'm not just right. It's 22, 13, 16. So when I got sent the EAD, it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So anything that makes our job easier, but the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. You've got to, for me, I would just say, go on to one of the streaming services and try and check out like a Hal Blaine playlist. There is one available, and it's 8 hours of hit records. Every single one of them. Yeah. From Nancy Sinatra to Frank to the Mamas and the Papas to the Carpenters to Simon and Garfunkel, and eventually, the more you listen to it, you start to hear the man's personality in every single artist that he was born with. You eventually start, that's Hal. It's got to be Hal, and it is. And that is as I say, that's a skill that I was able to really understand and work on by virtue of the fact that there was a lot more work, recording work. I would be making or record for a recording session that paid money, actual money, once a week. Every week I'd have a session, and that stuff has dried up for me. That's why I have my online thing. That's why I can record drums at home and send tracks out. And I've done an EP recently, sort of from home, which sounds great. When people take it away, because plugins and effects now, you can mix things very, very simply and very, very, very easily. That kind of thing is great. And I love that march of technology and the fact that it's all brought it down. It's cheaper. I've probably got more technology sitting in front of me than the Beatles had when they first recorded Sgt. Pepper's, in terms of memory and the possibilities to edit in milliseconds, all that kind of thing. But you can't lose sight of the fact that everything stems from a great song, regardless. Everything comes from a good song, and then coming up with a good part that complements the good song. And if you know that, then you're kind of onto a good thing as a young player.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you've been at this for quite a while. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
How's it changed for you in your career from playing in bands to where we're at now? Like what have you learned across the time?
Well, the constants are the same. Is that the music business is it's full of dodgy people. It's full of wannabes. It's full of people that think that it's easy. And I think that obviously now with the advent of the internet, everybody gets a Facebook page and they're therefore a promoter, and they can put a on, buy a PA and page, and then you can put a festival on, and that's really not there were people that were trying to do that back in the day, so that kind of not changed. It's just easier. I still say that the constants are that musicians will always outperform drummers. Whether the musician plays the guitar or plays the drums or plays the bass or plays the keyboards, the musician will always outperform the individual musician. It needs to come together and be recognized to come together.
Yeah.
Obviously streaming has changed the goalposts massively. Financially, obviously where it was easier to sustain a career, to say from the age of 16, I'm a professional drummer. What else do you do? Nothing. I just play the drums, And I think that we went through a period from the late 60s, early 70s, where being able to make a living as a musician became relatively easy comparatively to now. It was easier. There was more work. If you wanted to play, I could go and play at the local Irish club, Labour club, Conservative club, Liberal club, doing, just band stuff, just dance stuff, that people would want to dance to, hits of the day. which is where I really learnt my trade in terms of playing songs. And there was just a lot more work about, you know, and that I think has changed. And obviously, you know, but what I see with younger musicians now is that they've never known any different. So this is now their world. So I know some fabulous young musicians who design T-shirts and are working in fashion, and fabulous musicians who are web designers and are making visuals as well. And so, you know, this concept of I'm a professional musician, as John Lord said very, very succinctly and accurately, we were a bunch of white guys that were very lucky. And, you know, taking black music essentially, which was, you know, the influence of the blues on deep bands like Deep Purple and the Stones and to a certain degree the Beatles, and turning it into this new book, this, wow, you know, we're going to take the world over with music, and we're going to, you know, we're going to push Elvis out the way, and we're going to do it, and we're going to write our own songs. So that book was just being written all the time, you know, and then bands like Led Zeppelin coming along, and people like Peter Grant saying, actually, I think there's more money to be made for the band here if we do this and if we start merchandising. And so there was a kind of a juggernaut that kind of has gone now, you know, streaming. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you call yourself a professional musician, then you have to take regard to making money. But making music is not all about making money. And I've been saying to, you know, to younger musicians, or even some musicians of my age group, look, just because you can't pay the bills playing music at the moment, that doesn't mean to say that you can't make music. Most people that pick up an instrument globally, you know, you go across Asia, you go across Africa, you go to the Far East. Most people that pick up an instrument do not pick up an instrument with the intention of, oh, I'm going to make 200 quid today. They pick it up with the intention of, I'm going to really enjoy this. I'm really going to love it. And I think we need to we have no choice. We have to need to reacquaint with that factor about what music is about. It's something that enriches your soul and brings something very tangible in a good way to life. And if, you know, on the back of that, you can carve a living, then that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was with my daughter last night, and she was telling me about somebody that went to, I believe, the school that she went to, who has been picked up by the Canadian rapper artist Drake and kind of has been pushed forward, this young lad from South London. And he's got 49 million views on his YouTube channel. Wow. And, you know, and we forget about that because obviously as I get older, you know, I'm sort of in the category of listening to young people's music and going, turn that noise down. Have you never heard? have you not heard of Oasis? You know, proper band. You know what I mean? Because that's 25 years old now, and you know what's going on with grime and drill and you know all this kind of stuff that is very much online. Whether we like it or not is there, and I think that with a lot of younger musicians, they don't have the need to feel that they need to justify themselves in the mainstream, because you know if you're able to put music out and you're able to create music yourself and you're creating lyrics and you're programming beats, you can put that out yourself now. Yeah. And rather than that, you know, trying to get that kind of music signed to a record label, a major record label, is almost impossible. They, you know, the majors come along when the scene's over, like they did with punk, you know, and that's not changed. It's generally, I'd like to think it might have changed, but generally back in the day, it was always fairly middle-class white guys, you know, that ran the music business. Yeah. And I'm pretty much sure if you went to the top of the major three, there's probably a middle-class white guy still running it. Do you know what I mean? So that's not changed. It is tough. It's a tough living it's a tough living. It's a tough thing to do to choose as a profession. But then, you know, going down a coal mine and working on a pit face all day, that's hard work. You know, working on an assembly line, you know, working in any job that you don't enjoy doing, that's a tough call. Because one of the things my dad said to me was, if you know, which I really took to heart, was if you enjoy what you do for a living, you never have to work. I thought that was like, so I've kind of gone back down that route. And to be honest, there's absolutely nothing I could do now anyway. So, you know, I would turn my hand to gardening, and I quite fancy getting a van and going around and being one of these people that fixes all your IKEA stuff up for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is a gap in the market, absolutely.
I can do that, you know, and then maybe just do a little jazz gig on the evening now and then.
Mate, I think you've just nailed it. I think that's the career for everybody.
Yeah.
Just IKEA, you know. I love doing stuff like that, you know. It's like, right, clear the decks, let's get the box out, let's read the instructions, you know, where's my screwdriver, bit of WD-40 on it. Love anything like that. So
speaking of, Steve, are you free this like tonight? Because I've got something that needs built up.
I'll do it. I'm like a bullet. 2 hours.
Done. Brilliant.
Apart from there's one sideboard that apparently is absolutely horrendous, and people that do this for a living find it really difficult.
Well, that's your challenge accepted, eh? Yeah. So then, I mean, how did you stay away from things like the pitfalls of the industry, all the bad shit? You know, because you started as a young lad. Yeah. I started professionally making money doing it for a living when I was 14, and you know, and then I joined the Style Council when I was 17. I guess for me, you know, and I do feel incredibly lucky that I had good family behind me. I had family that, you know, I mean, I do remember, you know, my parents sort of setting out a very strict look. You've got to be careful of this, and it's only what I've done with my own children, hopefully. You know, just saying don't be easily led. You know, make your own decisions. Don't be pushed into things that you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. Being absolutely brutal, I saw the devastating effect that cocaine had on musicians that were older than me when I got into the music business at 17. And I was looking around at musicians that were 22, 23, 24, and things were not beginning to go too well. And that was very, very, a very simple lesson to take on board is like, stay clear of that crap. And to be absolutely perfectly honest, I've been around situations where there have been lots and lots of drugs, and I've always I've never ever partaken. I've just never done it. I didn't really, you know, I wasn't really a big boozer. I always, you know, was quite worried about the idea of going on stage. You know, this is my insecurity. Because I've worked that hard. I want to be good when I get on stage because we spoke about, you know, nature over nurture. And I, you know, openly admit I don't think I'm the most naturally talented drummer in the world. There are far more you know, people like Mark Mondesi and Gary Husband. You know, their spirit flows through the drums. You know, and I still have to work hard at it. So if I've had a couple of pints, it goes to you know, it goes a bit wrong. So booze never really became part of the equation, you know. So that was a lucky thing for me. And then when I was about 18, it was quite late. I got into doing martial arts. I got into doing kung fu, and I did that for 6 years. And my boys are 4 grades off getting their black belts in Taekwondo. They're working really hard, and that's the one non-negotiable for them. They will attain a black belt, and they will know how to defend themselves, and they will be wonderful human beings for it. Absolutely, yeah.
And that was always something that I had the confidence with. I don't know, and then, you know, as I say, I really loved the idea of not waking up in a city with a massive hangover and not being able to go and see, you know, something about that city. So for 25 years, it really, really worked for me, and I loved it. And I got to see so much of the world, and the more that I did it, the more it became addictive. So I really would get to see stuff. When I went to Bilbao, I'd go to the Guggenheim Museum, or I'd find out San Francisco, where's the best Italian, where's the best sushi, let's go there, let's do this, let's do that. And a lot of musicians end up in this kind of fog of like hangover, gig, oh, shall I have a drink? Yeah, I will, because I can't sleep. Hangover, gig, oh, I don't like this anymore. And that kind of, I was able, I guess, with a degree of discipline, and I was very much looked after when I joined the band, the Style Council, because Paul was 25, you know, I was 17, Mick was 25, Kenny, the tour manager, was 30, so they're all, you know, older than me, and they were like, yeah, you know what, mate, you don't really want to do that, or I would leave that, or that's fun, but so I got a good grounding. And then, you know, I began to enjoy the fruits of the labour. I just thought, you know, I'm my own person. I don't need to be the last, you know, all these cliches like having to be the last person in the bar and, you know, and get the shots in and all that kind of thing. It never happened for me like that. I just had the confidence to say, well, I'll have a drink. I'm going. Yeah. You know, the pitfalls never became part of the process.
Yeah. I remember Gerald Hayward talking. We had Gerald Hayward on a clinic, and that old thing where drummers lose the gig on their day off.
Yeah.
you know, next thing you know, you've got no gig to go to.
Totally. And I mean, we were quite measured. I mean, because, you know, bearing in mind, we had the Style Council, which was, you know, 83 to 89, but with fairly lengthy sort of gaps. But then we had the Weller solo years when it was doing the upwards trajectory. And that was 7 years. You know, we were on the road pretty much for 7 years, you know. And you know, you forget about that. You forget that, wow, you know. And we would be doing the same Git Towns, and we'd be doing Manchester, and we'd be playing a reasonably small gig at the uni or something. And then the next time we'd be doing the Apollo, you know. And then it would be 5 nights at the Apollo, and then it would be 2 nights at GMX. Wow, you know, this is, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and that was amazing to see that sort of snowball just kind of unfurl. And God, you know, there's no secret, Paul was quite hedonistic at that time, you know, the whole Britpop time, and obviously, you know, the same thing for Alan. Alan joined Oasis, and you know, those boys wore their they wore their drugs on their sleeve. You know? I remember an amazing night after an Oasis concert, sat at Cameron House, you know, just outside. Where Paul Gascoigne had one of those beautiful villas on stilts that are in the grounds of Cameron House, and him and Liam Gallagher sat in the bar, seeing who could order the most expensive drink, wine or whatever, and then deciding to order room service fresh prawns and see who could order the biggest plate. So kind of sat up watching Liam and Paul go head to head over very expensive wine and prawns. Was, you know, that's quite, those kind of events were quite, they were fun. It was but my brother behaved himself too. I you know, Bob Armstrong, when he got the gig, God bless him, said to Alan, you know, if I hear that you're doing cocaine, I'm going to come round and kick you up the fucking arse.
Brilliant.
That was a direct quote from Bob, so excuse the bad language, but
Do you know, so just when you were talking about it, about the whole drugs thing and drinking before you play a gig, like when I was studying in college, that was kind of drilled into us almost from day one. It's just like, listen, if you want to be a professional musician, like this is kind of how it is, you know, don't kind of expect to go on stage with 3 pints in you and expect to play the same as what you would, you know. And of course there was people in the class who would just be like, yeah, sure, no worries. And you would see it, like you would see the guitarists in the class thinking they were Slash and they were playing the wrong key, and you know, and it's just embarrassing. And
nowadays, nowadays, fucking these things, you're on the internet in 5 minutes.
Well, that's the other thing, and you know, and I do see a you know, I do understand that, you know, why if you were touring with Deep Purple or you know, or Bad Company or Black Sabbath, you know, there wasn't that connectivity. You got to Japan, the first time I went to Japan, to phone home to speak to my parents, I had to find a telephone box. I couldn't afford to phone from the hotel. I had to find a telephone box that took, you know, I could buy a voucher for just to be able to phone my mum, you know. So that connectivity, and that can be quite lonely, you know, especially, you know, if you're doing that constantly and you go back to a hotel room and you turn the TV on and it's all in Japanese and you kind of sat there thinking, I don't want to go to bed here. And, you know, so the fact that, you know, being disciplined, it's hard. It really was hard. And I missed endless parties where I'm sure I could have had an absolutely amazing time, but it was all for me about, you know, being ready for the gig. And yes, we did go out and get hammered and have a great time. But what we tended to do was to make sure that there wasn't a gig the next night, you know, because you have to let your hair down a bit. You have to kind of, you know, and I just think everything in moderation was great. But I've seen a definite sea change in younger musicians now. And, you know, being out your head, alcohol and drugs, I think it's frowned upon nowadays with so young musicians, and that's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, I think people forget that there's punters turning up that might never have seen you play, and you're the reason they're there.
Totally.
You know, so if you can't walk,
it's a job, and we've all, we've all been to embarrassing gigs. We've all been there, and you know, and that was one of the things that it was quite, you know, quite sort of military in some ways. That whole thing working with Paul. And knowing when it was like a night off and, you know, it's a day off, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go swimming, you know, I'm going to give my ears a rest. And then just still enjoying it, you know, going out in Chicago and going to meet Steve Maxwell in 2001 and going out for a curry. And, you know, and I've been privileged enough all over the world to eat in some of the best restaurants and have some of the greatest experiences, but, you know, still be here and not kind of having to go, oh, you know, I can't do it anymore. And you know, and I praise anybody that recognizes that they've got a problem and goes and gets help for it, and then, you know, begins to live a life clear of the fog, without alcohol, without drugs. I mean, Matt Dayton, who I love and work with, I mean, he's very, you know, vocal in his support for the help that he got and his sobriety, and I know lots of people like that, and I don't have an issue with it. It's like, if somebody doesn't mind me having a glass of wine, but if somebody says, you know what, I'd really rather you didn't, I'm fine. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, you're never going to be the guy that has to apologise, you've made friends all over the world, so you can go to Chicago now and have dinner with people
mates,
that you met 20 years ago because you're not a nutcase.
One of my closest and dearest friends is a young lady by the name of Sherry Levy, and I met her when I was 17, just turned 18 in the Style Council, and she was 15, and I was being kind of chatted up by a lady that was in her late 30s who didn't seem to be all there, if you know.
Yeah.
I was getting a bit kind of worried, and this very lovely young New Yorker grabbed me and said, "Hey, let's go." And I went, "Oh, right, okay, let's go." And she went, "She's not right." And I went, "No, she really isn't right." And we became friends, and we are still friends, you know, 40 odd years later, and she's still in Brooklyn, and you know, she came over for my wedding, and I'm lucky. I've got friends like that all over the world. You know, I've got friends in China, I've got friends in Japan, I've got friends in Italy, and I've embraced that global village. And that's why I kind of, you know, I'm very unhappy about what's going on in the UK at the moment, because we're becoming insular, and there's a potential that the actual, we might split up. You know, the union might be split up, and I don't blame Scotland if they say, no, look, we don't want to be run by. I know there's issues, but you know, whatever you think of who's in charge up there, we could not possibly have a worse leader than we can't. You know, even for a Tory, you know, an ardent Tory, you can't be watching that guy thinking, oh, he's doing a great job, because he isn't. And what we've also got to realise now is we've got the massive smack in the face of Brexit coming, you know. So with this kind of, my thing has always been of the global village, of going around the world and people loving, you know, your English accent and loving the music and talking about, have you ever met Ringo? Have do you like The Who? And, you know, and where'd you come from? I love London and all that kind of stuff. Now we're being looked at as idiots. We're being looked at with disdain, you know, a little bit of disdain, and you know, we can't seem to go to a football tournament without causing trouble. You know, that's the English, not the Scots. But it, you know, it just makes me kind of a bit sad. You know, this is not the way I thought it would go. I really didn't.
Yeah, it's a shame. There's a bit of an arrogance about it all.
Yeah, well, it's an elitist thing, and one of the things I've done in lockdown is I've read a lot. I read a lot about English history, and English, and eventually obviously British history, but English history is absolutely littered with entitled people that have no right to be ruling, and people that are supporting them or trying to bring them down. Very rarely do you get mention of the working class. It's always about the kingmaker or the kingtaker or the crown maker and the crown taker. And there's so much information about the weird lineage of our royalty and all the people that eventually have become the aristocracy, have become the establishment. And at one point, we should have kicked them all out. We should have started again. But we haven't. And we're seeing 1,000 years of arrogance and entitlement personified.
Well, what was interesting about all that is that the working class proved how valuable they are, because they held up the entire bloody country for 3 months, taking a taking abuse, taking hell, just to go to work and so you can get your groceries.
I said that, and I know that, supermarkets are, at the end of the day, they are businesses and they have shareholders. But, if it wasn't for all of the supermarkets not getting their act together very early on in this situation, there would have been civil unrest. And and that was way beyond the government. And then, the way people have been reacting, people that, just general people, when I go out now, everybody says good morning. Everybody actually speaks to you. Yeah. But the train is it's off the tracks and running down the side of the mountain now, because we're very polite. It's like, is this Brexit? Even if you support it and support the process and say, well, we voted out, we're going out, fine. But in the current circumstances, to actually say, should we maybe not coincide it with a potential second wave of COVID? Would it matter if we delayed it and spoke to Europe and said maybe we could do it next summer, when we're all in a little bit of less choppy waters? But no, it's not, because, oh, well, they know what they're doing, and, and we can't say anything. But, your dog has a pee outside their house and they're shouting at you. But, no, well, let's just hope that it all goes away,
Yeah.
It's just fine.
Have you write music, eh?
I write lyrics, and I have I understand basic chords and things like that, and I can sing passages, and I'm working with Hague and White. We are splitting everything three ways as the writing process. We're just kind of sharing it, because it's just proving to be really constructive to do it like that. Paul. Working with Paul, he's the complete deal as a songwriter, and he gave me a lot of freedom to contribute my parts. But he's the songwriter. You're working for a songwriter, and you respect that. But with this situation, and it is hard to call yourself a songwriter when you've worked with Paul Weller for so long, So I was very aware of that. But yeah, I write lyrics, which I really enjoy. I've written some lyrics for a project that I've done with Matt Dayton, and I'm quite into that idea. And also my musical ideas, in terms of structure, like with the new single that we've got coming out next month, which I think is a really great little 3.5 minutes of good pop music. I was able to say, well, I think we should get to the bridge a bit quicker, or maybe we should make the intro a bit a bit shorter. Let's get to the bridge there, and because that's that experience. And I can offer sort of suggestions for lines and for backing vocals and things like that. So, but I do consider that's the musician in me. But I wouldn't say writer as in the likes of some of the people that I've worked with. It doesn't work like that. Chris and Joel are really good writers, but they appreciate what I'm putting in as a musician. And I like that idea. I like, the Chili Peppers do that, is everything goes into the pot and they split it 4 ways. U2 do that, which is quite interesting for, bands that have actually managed to stay together for that amount of time. There's got to be something in it. So with the Hague and White thing, and when you think that you're on an equal par with everybody else, I think you work harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, let drummers be valued in a different way. You're not just stuck at the back, like, just play something.
No, and it's a really, it is a really interesting thing, because obviously now we're getting more into the idea of you look at the Beatles credits, it was Lennon, McCartney, and then there might be a George one, and then eventually there might be a Ringo one. And, possibly for them in hindsight, what do I know? But, it might have worked out differently if they'd have just kind of split it, but that wasn't the way things were done back then. You always had, you're the writers, you write the tunes and they play the drums. And I see that more and more now with younger bands, where they just split everything. And I think that, they can split that 1.42 pounds between.
Yeah.
I see it all getting split, and I think that's kind of a much healthier way if you can work like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
So obviously we're kind of jumping back and forth here, but I was just wondering if you had, I'm sure there's loads of them, but I'm sure if there's one particular moment in your career that you could kind of pick out as like oh wow, this is amazing kind of moment.
You're right. I've got many. Doing Live Aid and some of the tours, like that I did with Paul, where we played at Glastonbury in 1994, and every 120,000 people were singing Wildwood, and doing Tour Hoot and Workiter just after we did Live Aid, when there was, I think, nearly 200,000 people in the field in Belgium.
Can you imagine that many people?
No.
Like, just
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then something that came up recently was the fact that the recent sort of anniversary of the Hiroshima bombing. Well, we were there on the 35th anniversary playing in Hiroshima, and playing a beautiful like a beautiful hall there, a concert hall, 7,500, 8,000. We were doing 3-4 nights there, and I remember Paul on the actual anniversary sending our interpreter out to ask everybody if, in memory of the people that had died in the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, if everybody would mind standing for a minute's silence. And to see 7,000-8,000 people just stand silently was just incredible and so emotional. Then we played, and so there were lots and lots of things like that. And then there were sort of events that were like we'd been on a bus for 12 hours and we'd all got the lurgy and feeling like crap, and hanging out the paracetamols and the Nurofen, and getting off the bus and thinking, oh God, and there's maybe 200 people, and it's a small town in Switzerland on a Friday night, and you just have the most amazing gig. So I kind of always felt, right, the next gig could be your last. Let's enjoy it like that. So yeah, there was the big ones, and some of the tours, just wonderful tours. I loved going to Australia the one time that we went, and some of the European tours that we did were just spectacular. Obviously, you've got things like the Live 8, which was quite a was a very significant event in terms of the music world, but was a very fleeting thing for me and Damon. We kind of went in to a rehearsal room. We played the tunes that we were asked to learn once, and then the next time we did them was on stage at Hyde Park.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, and that was bonkers, because that actually, I felt a little bit out of control on that. It was like a bit like, I would have liked maybe a day's rehearsal, And I am somebody that likes to rehearse. I like to make sure that everything's sorted. I know where my spare snare drum is, and and the cheat sheets are all gone. So yeah, that was pretty pretty nerve-wracking, but an amazing thing, to say that you were part of, because these things are now very rapidly sort of disappearing into the past, and somebody, my friend James Sharp sent me a little poster today of a clinic that we were doing for him with Craig Blundell, and it was 8 years ago, and it was like, that's not 8 years ago, is it? And you're like, yeah, it was, and you kind of go, geez, and so you can't sort of deny the passage of time. You really can't. And so my sort of philosophy now is I want to do as much as I can while I'm still really, really enjoying it. And I am loving it now. I've really had this opportunity, luckily, because I've got my little drum room, to really look at my technique and what I want to do with it, and look at the motion, and be the best drummer that I can be at 55, And I'm a great fan of Steve Smith. He really is an inspiration to me in terms of the way he plays, the musicality, the knowledge, the intelligence that he brings to the drums, and I do find that very inspiring. I'm still massively into my vintage snare drums and working on my hands in terms of I've been doing some Alex Duthart stuff over the lockdown, and watching people like Stephen Shedden and Jim Kilpatrick,
wow,
that, and Klaus Hessler, and then going on to the Charlie Wilcox and stuff, and watching the people that really inspire me. And I mentioned Keith Carlock, I mentioned Craig, Stanton Moore, who I absolutely love, Steve, and it's great. I think I've never been more enthused, and I'm still as enthused about it, but I really feel like I've got a sense of purpose. I'm loving working with the Hague and White thing. We've got the platform now, and to get some new music out, and it's just like, for me, it's just like, bring it on. I want to do as much as I can.
Where can people find all that stuff?
Well, the Hague and White stuff, there's an album. If you go onto the streaming sites and just put Hague and White in, you'll hear the album, The 11th Hour, which I think is one of the best things I've done in ages. I've got, everything's up on my kind of Spotify list. If everyone wants to just check in, there's a thing called Mr. White on Drums, which is my... And then I've got Weller and Whitey, which is all the stuff that I did with Paul. I mean, I can forward you the links if you're interested, but it's basically all of the stuff that I did with Paul, which is about 340 songs, and then all the stuff that I did I've done that wasn't with Paul, and that's about another 350 songs. So, and it's being added to all the time. So, you know, the Jazz Renegades is being re-released digitally, and the Players is being re-released.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's all kind of happening. So, you know, so I am trying to collate it all, and we have a new website, Real Movement Music. But I think next week, because we're doing this Sky event for the documentary, we're going to trailer the single with a little teaser and, you know, a link to be able to download it. We've got a full video, which I think will be up on my YouTube channel next week. So between Whitey Drums or my YouTube channel, the info's kind of there, and I do try to keep it as updated as possible.
Cool.
Fantastic, Steve. That's awesome.
Steve, that's been amazing, man.
Yeah.
It's like an hour of just pure joy. It's just
absolute pleasure. I've got to cook now, so because the twins went back to school today, so they're all a bit, you know, bit grumpy. So my wife's been working away. She's been doing a documentary for Channel 5, so it's been quite a busy week. But so I'm doing my other thing tonight. I'm in the kitchen, you know, one of my other hobbies. So
brilliant.
It's steak tagliata tonight.
Oh,
well,
lovely.
Man, if you can get it shipped to Glasgow as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I was just going to say, do you want to just head down just now? Yeah.
No, I've got an extra bottle of wine if you can make it.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, mate, and we hope to catch you soon.
Yes,
So-
absolutely.
It will happen. We'll just keep talking. It will happen, and I'm coming. I really want to. I'm really gagging to get out around the UK. You know, forget who's in charge. I love the people of this country. There's a lot of amazing cities, and you know, being where I live is great, and it's been fantastic. But I'm missing. You know, I went up to Manchester and I've been to Sheffield, and you know, I'm missing all that. I'm missing the regional idiosyncrasies, and I'm missing wandering around our great country. So very soon, as soon as I can.
Brilliant, mate. Take care.
Take care. Lots of love.
You
All
too,
the best.
Steve.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.